Watertown City Council meets tonight, and not a lot to talk about for June 2nd, but Mayor Sarah Pierce is here to run down some things that are on the agenda. Mainly, we're going to talk about the budget because you're at the end of the budget process. So good afternoon, good morning, whenever people are watching. But how good is it to have the budget session behind you, and how do you rate this budget in terms of effectiveness on people?
Well, I think a lot of time and effort went into the budget. Obviously, the time and effort that went into it before the public saw it with our city manager and staff, and then obviously a lot of hours spent at work sessions by city council members to go through, ask questions of the department heads, see where we'd like to make changes, and what people will see tonight or what people have seen and heard through the media is the final product of those discussions. So I think good to make it to this point, and we go on from here.
Originally a 19% increase on property taxes, down about 10% to 9%, roughly. Are you happy with that?
I think at the outset, I think we all knew that significant increases were going to be proposed, and at the outset my goal was to get it down into single digits at least, and so through a number of changes we were able to do that. Is it significant to a lot of people? Certainly. I think people will see this as a significant tax increase, unfortunately, but given the position that we're in both now with the city's finances and looking to the future, I think it's good that we were able to get it down to roughly 9%.
Between last year and this year, the tax increase adds up to 15, 16, 17% in that area. And you know, some people have said, and I think it's come out of city council, but residents have said, maybe at even the public comment period, that they're worried that they're just going to not be able to afford to live in the city of Watertown. Words that you don't want to hear. Do you believe that that is the case? Do you think this is that we're on that road? Or what do you say to those people that are like, I may not be able to keep living here?
Well, it is hard to hear those things, and I understand the concerns that people have. I think we're at a point right now where we are trying to, I think, at least myself, maybe a couple other council members, trying to right the ship when it comes to fiscal responsibility. I think if you look at the budget this year, the proposed budget that we're about to pass, there are a number of decisions made that were tough decisions. I think we're going to have to continue to make those tough decisions and make some smart spending choices so this issue of fiscal instability isn't exacerbated. And I think we have a number of challenges obviously coming up in the future. So I think that really in the coming years, we're going to have to look at some pretty innovative, out of the box, perhaps drastic things to do to keep the city solvent.
What were some of the tough decisions in this year's budget that you're referring to? Well,
I think you have to look at the different expenditures, like necessary equipment. For example, there was a rotary snow blower that I know would have certainly been of immense use to DPW. I think the price tag on that was around $300,000. Anything like that, you hate to deny a department equipment that would make their jobs easier, make them more efficient. But those were tough decisions where you have to look at, okay, can we put this off a year? Can we afford this? There was a change made in the fire department in terms of staffing. With that individual having provided great service to the community through fire education. You have to look at things like that are difficult decisions to make that you don't want to have to make, but you have to, unfortunately, make those choices.
What were some other things that got cut out of the budget to bring it down to where it is? Roughly $100,000 of expenditure will bring down the property tax rate by 1%. Those are rough numbers, but pretty easy to do that math. The stairs and over on by the water.
The canal stairs, that was a $300,000 project that we put off.
What Newell Street end up with?
That was not changed. I don't believe that was changed at all.
So that's $7.5 million project?
We looked at some different ways to pay for that in terms of, if I recall correctly, I believe CHIPS funding, but I don't believe we ended up changing that significantly to bring that down. But there were a number of other changes, some larger, some smaller. All the way down to, electric sign or the message board signage for DPW. Small things in the mayor's budget, city council budget in terms of data plans, expenditures from the mayor's office. I think I get a line item for like $1,000 for travel. Don't need it, eliminate it. So small things like that, and then larger things like, as you said, the canal stairs. There were a couple staffing positions that were eliminated from the budget. Beyond that, it was just a lot of different items that added up to produce that increase that we're going to see.
How did the police department end up with the positions that they were looking for? Did they get fully staffed with what they're?
There weren't any staffing changes
There weren't
made in terms
additionals
of,
there?
no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So as people look at it, they're going to have more of pay more in property taxes. If you look for a bright side and you look at the way the city's going to spend money and beautify the city, I mean, that Newell Street project is going to be spectacular. It's going to be a pain in the butt when it happens, probably, for people around there, when you have to replace the infrastructure underneath, but then you're going to put in new sidewalks, trees, and all that, right? The beautification of it as well.
That's the plan, yes.
So, I mean, that's a great area, I think some would argue, to beautify, because you have the river right there. I mean, that's progress. Is that one thing you would point to?
I think so, and I mean, I think there's a lot of different things in the budget that will improve day-to-day life for people. It is hard to, think about, what am I getting for a 9% property tax increase? But I think the bottom line is we're, maintaining a lot of the great services we provide in the city, different programs, especially through Parks and Rec. So there's a lot of good in the budget, despite the tax increase.
Sure. Let's talk about pools and where the fees come down. The thought to charge everyone didn't float, right? It didn't go all the way through. So where do we stand?
That was to generate around $60,000 if we had charged everybody for use of the pools. We ended up the final outcome in the proposed budget is charging out of city residents. So that's what we'll be looking at moving forward, is just charging out of city residents for use of the pool.
And $3?
$3, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, $3. And admittedly hard to figure out who lives where. Right. It's going to be a tough thing to enforce.
I mean, it is a hurdle, I think, for our staff. It is a bit time consuming, but at the end of the day, and I said this at a council meeting, it kind of comes down, at least for me, to principle. You have city residents who are paying to keep these pools operating. It's nice to be able to provide them with that amenity for free, but I don't think city taxpayers should be on the hook for outside users coming and using the pools when we pay to maintain them.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the longer picture, and nothing surprises you with these questions, because you have the $9-10 million deficits that are out there that Comptroller Mills has projected, and your city manager is continuing to balance or at least look at. Is there a role, or should there be a role from New York State in helping out cities like Watertown? I mean, Ogdensburg has faced some of these fiscal challenges. You're not alone, is my point. Are there conversations, or do you look to your state leaders to say, the aid and incentives for municipalities, AIM money, really needs to increase, or there needs to be some sort of other fund to get some of these cities back to right the ship in a better way, instead of these budgets that
right, definitely.
Some will say just kicks the can.
It certainly, obviously, would be helpful to have more support from New York State. And as you said, we are not alone in our struggles. We might be obviously a little bit worse off financially than some other cities throughout the state, but we're not unique. If you look at media from statewide publications, there's many other municipalities who are having very similar struggles. And I know that the New York State Conference of Mayors, certainly they do an advocacy push every year for more of that AIM funding. Where we go from here, I think there's definitely room for increased advocacy, engaging with our state representatives, our senator, our assembly person, and saying, this is a situation we're facing. But I don't think that we should be doing that alone. I think, probably the best way forward is to band with some of these other municipalities in the area that's represented by our state legislators to say, okay, this is a collective issue that we're having. What can you do to help us? How can you help us get the ear of the governor's office and kind of make the case for more support?
And Watertown being unique because it has the hydro facility and the contract's going to come due, but still you'd be running a deficit even if you didn't have that contract come to an end, right?
Right.
It looks like that you'd still have the deficit. So how did Watertown get here? I mean, that's a very heavy question, and we don't have a ton of time. But what are the driving costs for municipalities in the state where you just can't stay above water?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. I think it's obviously that the price of everything has increased throughout the years. The cost of labor has increased throughout the years. There's different state mandates that we have to comply with, the way that we have to purchase things, various other state rules and regulations that make it expensive to run a city, to run a municipality. There are those factors. There are the spending factors. I mean, I hate to keep going back to it, but there's decisions that have been made in the past about how to spend our city taxpayer dollars that have put us in a more challenging position now. So it's been a combination of factors, and I think also it's been said a number of times, failure to keep up with incremental tax increases throughout the years. That also plays a role. So it's a combination of factors that I think have led us to this point.
Retirement is another one, right? I mean, sometimes
yes.
that retirement number
Sure.
is a moving target sometimes, and,
Right.
and you have to pay that.
Yes.
The city has to pay that.
Yep.
And healthcare as well, right, for the city. And that's another one of those moving targets, but it's another one that you have to, kind of a mandate. So,
Correct.
all right, the vote tonight as the meeting begins, 7 o'clock start, City Hall, correct?
6:30,
6:30.
actually. This is technically a continuation of our last meeting. We didn't adjourn the last meeting, so this will be a continuation of the last meeting that we had where we will vote on the budget. And then the regular meeting will start at 7
And then do
o'clock.
the regular city. So people can still attend for that 6:30 meeting. You need a majority to pass it, at least 3 votes. Do you think you have it? Do you think there are 3
I
votes?
think we do, based on the way that discussions went during our last budget work session. Everybody seemed to have their questions answered. There wasn't anything additional that was proposed to be changed. So I think that it sounded like most everybody was in a good place with where things were.
And expect the same thing next year.
I think so.
Yeah, in terms of a large proposed increase, and then try to whittle it down to where you are. But all right, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very
Good
much.
to see you.